Hello and welcome to Hughes of the World. All five of us. I think one of the people who's watching this is me, so maybe four people there. But we definitely have John M. Chad is also the name for circular bits of paper found in a hole punch. It's very true. I remember the hanging Chads of the 2000 election between Al Gore and George W. Bush. Pineapple Boy wants to know what Chad has in common with Israel and North Korea. Well, they've got seats on the UN. They're still technically at war. Maybe is that the answer? I don't know. I don't know. Can't be that they're landlocked because Israel and North Korea aren't. Chad, Israel, North Korea. Maybe they don't call Chad. My I think it's so cold that my chair is making strange noises. I've got Pineapple Boy saying hola. I've got Charlie Nelson saying aye up. Graham, and no other country. Oh, okay. What does Chad have in common with Israel and North Korea? It has in common with Israel and North Korea. It's mentioned in the Bible. No, obviously that's not. Israel and it's no other country has this. Trying to think. Flags are very different. There's the national anthem. No. Spain's the one with no lyrics. Israel was founded in what, 1947 was it? 48, and Chad got independence in 1960. Oil, maybe they have. I give in, Pineapple Boy. Let me know in the comments what the answer is, because it put me out of my misery. Okay, so today we are traveling to the dead heart of Africa. Yeah, seriously, that's what people call it. They call it the dead heart of Africa. I didn't put that on the tourist brochures because it doesn't sound that enticing, does it? It's called that because a lot of it is desert and not a lot of the northern hand. Answer, 3 years or more military service. Oh, okay, yes. Okay, conscription. You've got to do your national service. Okay, didn't know that. Thank you very much, Pineapple Boy. You should do the quiz after the show today, I think. Okay, so we're heading into the middle of Africa. The capital of Chad is called N'Djamena. Didn't come up on Graham Hughes Travel. Oh, well, that's a problem, isn't it? It should have done. That's what I set it to do. Oh, damn. Okay, let me just check this out. This should be on Graham Hughes Travel on YouTube. It shouldn't be going out on my normal YouTube travel. Yeah, Graham Hughes Travels. It says there's 6 people watching now. Thank you very much, Chubai. We're coming along, but no, that seems to be okay. Anyway, yes, the capital is N'Djamena, and the population is 16.43 million people, which has skyrocketed in the last 2 decades. The Demonin, the name of the people of Chad, is Chadians, which is nice, isn't it? The country is made up of dozens of different ethnic and tribal groups, such as the Fuluna, Tubu, the Maba, and the Zagwa. The languages that are spoken are French. It used to be a French colony. We will talk about that. Arabic, well, a French holding. I wouldn't really call it a colony. Arabic, Sara, and over 120 local languages and dialects. The flag, as you can see here, is the flag of Romania and possibly Moldova and possibly Andorra as well. It's all the same, pretty much. Yeah, that's the flag of Chad. It's based on the French flag, and except it's yellow in the middle instead of white, and you can tell that it's not the flag of Romania, even though it's exactly the same proportions and the same colours, because the blue is a little bit darker. It's a slightly, just tiny little tinge darker shade of blue, and that's the flag of Chad. Obviously, the real flag of Chad is just straight lines. It's a little jaggedy one that I made to make it look like, I don't know, it's blowing in the breeze in an old 8-bit arcade game. Hello, Graham, says Mad Monk. Hello, Mad Monk. When I think of Chad, I think of Sheldon Cooper in The Big Bang Theory trying to buy yellow cake from Chad for his death ray. Okay. Chad's not a very sexy name. It's a very American name. You get Chads in America. I actually know a Chad from America, strangely enough. Hope you're not watching. If you are, hi Chad, how you doing, mate? But yeah, it's just a weird name. It's a weird name. I think it's a weird name. But there you go. They like it in America. I don't know what it's short for. Is it short? Is that it? Is that their name? Or is it short for something? Chadwick or something? I don't know. Anyway, Chubai said, didn't come up on Graham Hughes travel in the search. Yeah, Chubai, this is brand new channel. There's no videos on it yet. This is the first one. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of building up. We're going to build it up together. As people come online. Look, we've got Reagan Elite already. Brilliant. People are finding it. By this time next year, I'll have 20 people watching. The French have changed their shade of blue recently, says Chubai. I was not informed. Oh, someone get the Vexillological Society on the phone. Excuse me, I wasn't informed. What? That's a bit crazy, isn't it? Anyway, so the flag is the blue is the sky, the yellow is the desert, and the blood is the bloodshed for the people of the country. Again, as it always is in all flags. Anyway, the currency is the Central African CFA, not to be confused with the West African CFA, or CFA, because they're completely different currencies. Even though they're the same, pretty much. They're both pegged to the euro. They both used to be pegged to the French franc until 2002, when we introduced the euro, and now it's pegged to the euro. Religion is half Islam and half Christianity and animist. Yeah. Like in Central African Republic, there's loads of parallels with Central African Republic, like in Sudan, like in Cote d'Ivoire, like in Nigeria. It's almost as though a bunch of white people got together and they drew a big line around a country and went, oh, we'll put all these Muslim people in the north in with these Christian people in the south, like what they did in Sudan before it split into two. Put all the Christians in the south, all the animists in the south, indigenous beliefs in the south, and the north can be Muslim, and then we can just let them fight it out amongst themselves. Thanks for that, Europe, you bastards. Anyway, so that's the situation that the country is in at the moment. So it's about 20. So it's about 33% Christian. It's about 17% animist or indigenous beliefs. Polygamy is widely practiced in Chad, and 2/3 of women are married before the age of 18. Which, given what's happening at the moment with Prince Andrew, or Andy Windsor, as he's now known. It's a bit, Chad has also got one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the world. 1,100 mothers die for every 100,000 live births. And not surprising, really, when there's only one Chadian doctor available for every 23,600 people. Yeah, not great. The national symbol, well, there's one for the north, which is a goat, and there's one for the south, which is a lion. The country's two countries. We're going to get into this, but again, it's two different countries that historically were never one country, and they were kind of turned into one country by the Europeans, and when the Europeans pulled out in 1960, it's been fucking bedlam ever since. The national anthem is called Le Chadien, or Le Chadien, which means the Chadian, which is what people from Chad are called. And the instrument of the country is called the kakaki. The kakaki. And I was thinking about this, if I had a bit more, if I had a proper studio and I had a producer or an editor working with me, it'd be great not just to have footage of when I was in these places, but also to have music and dance and stuff like that, so we can talk about the culture of these places as well as the history of the places. It's something that I'd like to get into a bit more than we do. The Tibesti Mountains are home to some of the best camel racing in the world. Yeah, take that, Abu Dhabi. And the GDP per capita is quite a dispiriting $1,500 a year per person. That's the 2020 estimate. So you think about, what's that, $5 a day, if that. Yeah, not great. Also, it's spelled with a T. I know up there it's spelled with a C, because in English it's spelled with a C, but in French it's spelled Chad with a T, T-C-H-A-D. Yellow cake is slang for uranium, which Chad has abundance of. Oh, really? 20 years euro birthday cake there for Pineapple Boy. I was in Spain when they changed to the euro. Yeah, great days. I think I was in Croatia. Was I in Croatia when Croatia became part of the EU? I think I was. 2007, was it? Croatia? Or am I thinking of 2013? I think it was 2013. I wasn't there then. There was one country. I was in a country when it became part of the EU. It was really exciting. Chad's national flag is the same as Romania. Yeah. Except that the blue is a little bit darker on the Chad flag. A little bit darker. So let's dive into the geography, and I will bring up the map onto the screen now. So I'm going to disappear. I'll re-emerge in a moment. Ooh. Okay, so that is the map of Chad. Well, that's the map of the world, actually, with Africa there, looking really big, because Africa is really freaking big. And, yeah, it is, Chad, as you can see there, is a landlocked country, right in the middle. The heart of Africa, the dead heart of Africa, because all of this area up in the north here is all the Sahara Desert. It's some of the most inhospitable, it's one of the most inhospitable parts of the Sahara Desert, and down here is actually quite jungly, strangely enough. Yeah, it's bordered by 6 countries. Nigeria, who it has okay relations with. Niger, not good relations. Libya, off and on, good and bad. Bad usually relations. Sudan, really, really bad relations. And Central African Republic, which it has quite good relations with, actually. So let's zoom in a little bit more on Chad, and you will see the capital there, N'Djamena, and also you'll see along here, along the border with Niger and Nigeria, you'll see some lakes. And if I zoom in a bit more, we should see, there it is, Lake Chad. You see the Lake Chad here. That is the Chad that Chad is named after. And interestingly enough, Chad in the local language just means lake. So it's called Lake. And the place is called Lake. It's one of the driest countries in the world. It's completely like sand. Up this part is all sand. It's all sand. And yet it's called Lake. The place is called Lake. Bit of a lie. It's like Greenland. Greenland's not green, it's icy. It will be green soon because of climate change, but there you go. So yeah, it doesn't really get on with its neighbours. It's had border disputes with Libya. One interesting one, if I move the map down a little bit. See this diagonal line here, right? Well, Libya in the 1990s came over, and they wanted the line to be drawn parallel with that one, but starting in this corner here and just coming all the way down here. They actually had a war with each other over this because they wanted this bit of sand, literally bit of sand. There's really not. There's nothing there. There's really nothing there. There was a war in the 90s with Sudan, and obviously Darfur is over here. If I zoom in a little bit, we should see the Darfur. This is the Darfur region of Sudan, where obviously there's a lot of instability and refugees and problems there, and there has been for quite a while now. Also, I just want to point out, doesn't Chad look like the profile of a man with a very straight head? Look, he's got a very straight head, and there's his nose, and there's maybe like his mouth there, maybe, and like he's wearing like a little chef's thing. Maybe he's wearing a chef's hat. I don't know. Maybe he's wearing like a mortarboard. I don't know. It just looks like a side-on profile of a face to me. Anyway, so Nigeria actually expelled a lot of Chadian expats in the 1980s, or immigrants, when Nigeria was going through a bit of an economic slump, and they said, "Oh, well, let's get rid of all the Chadians. That'll help." It didn't. Niger, they don't really get on much. I don't think. Just they just happen to neighbour each other. But all this is just inhospitable deserts up this line here. It's not like there's vast metropolitan metropolises of life, because there really isn't. Anyway, so moving on. So the Chad Basin, which is basically where the country is the biggest drainage basin in all of Africa. So actually, there's a lot of water under the sand here. So there are quite a few oases, and there's a lot of underground water that can be tapped. Down in the south here, where you can see the map gets a lot greener. It's very green, lots of wildlife, but poaching is a huge problem. So that's not good, is it? Right, so I'm going to come back on. Hello? Oh, shit, didn't work. Hello! That worked. Okay, no Tuareg tribes and no Boko Haram nonsense in Chad. No, Tuaregs are generally Niger, and then Burkina Faso, I think they might move around in sort of southern Algeria. I think they go as far as Mauritania because they move around. They're nomadic. That's what they do. But yeah, Boko Haram, they're the northern Nigerian terrorist group. It means something like women's education forbidden. That's a rough translation of Boko Haram, I think. And yeah, they're like Muslim extremists who like to make problems for people because, why not? Any life in the north of the country? Asked Reagan. Well, there's sand, and there's quite a few people who live up there. I mean, most of the population live in the south. Most of the population live, near the capital and where it's sort of green and stuff. But there are millions of people who live in the north of the country, and in oases and things like that. And yeah, there's this ongoing problem, which is, if you are from the north and you live in a desert and you're Muslim, and the leader of the country is a Christian who lives 1,000 miles away in a jungle environment, right? You're not going to feel much affinity with them. I mean, it's not just the religious thing. I mean, it's your terrain, it's your culture, it's your language. You might speak a different language to them. And this is one of the most insidious things that the Western powers did. It's to split up tribes that were all part of one tribe. If you the Gambia and Senegal being a good example of this, people in Gambia and Senegal speak the same local language, but the national languages are French if you're in Senegal and English if you're in the Gambia. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's two countries, so there should be one. Whereas somewhere like Chad or Central African Republic or Nigeria or Sudan before it split, you have this Muslim north and Christian south. And all things being equal, everyone should get along because they're both religions of peace, apparently. However, in practice, people don't like it when the person in charge doesn't reflect their culture, their self-identity. They don't see someone who they think is like them in charge of the country. And that's always going to create problems, always, when you have these countries that are split like this. And thankfully, most sort of countries in Europe now have moved on from this. And if you're a Catholic, you don't find a problem with voting for someone who's Protestant. But you only have to look at the way Northern Ireland is to know that we're not so far away from this, crazy think of, oh, they're really different to me. I mean, they all live in the neighbouring streets, for Christ's sake. But in Chad, people live hundreds of miles away from each other. And yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. And that disaster, you could give it a name. You could call it Chad. It's been an absolute... I mean, there's been one sort of good thing that happened to Chad in the last 60 years. But it's only sort of good, and I'll come to that. But for more than 2,000 years, the Chadian basement had been inhabited by agricultural and sedentary people. The region became known as a crossroads of civilizations. The earliest of these civilizations was the legendary Sao, known from artifacts and oral histories, and they settled possibly around 500 BC in the area. May have even been earlier than that. These people were conquered by the Kanem Empire, which lasted as the independent kingdom of Borno until 1900, when the French basically turned up and started just taking over because they just wanted that sand. They just desired that sand so much, and then when they got it, they decided they didn't know what to do with it. They were like the dog that caught the car or the Brexiteer who got Brexit. Historically, hang on. 1 second. Better. Historically, Chad's was dominated by slave trading Arabs coming down from the northern regions of the continent. Kanem-Bornu didn't really cover all of Chad; it just covered the north, the deserty bit, and they only really went into the jungly bit down in the south to raid for slaves, which is nice. So it was never a country. It was never like, oh, here's a historical country like Egypt, arguably, like Ethiopia. You can go, oh, here's an historical place. Let's just draw a line around it and say that's a country now. It really wasn't that simple. And well, obviously they knew what they were doing. They knew how to divide and conquer. That's why they drew these lines. It was to make sure that you had these two tribes or religions or linguistic groups that didn't get on, and you forced them together and say, hey, you're a country now, yay. So the north of the country used to be an important crossroads on the road to Timbuktu. Get it out. So I'll start that again. So the north of the country used to be a very important crossroads on the way to Timbuktu. And Timbuktu was a huge hive of trade back in the day. And any traders coming down from Egypt or across from Ethiopia would go through what's now Chad in order to get to Timbuktu. More recently, France was given the area in the 1884 Conference of Berlin, which we've talked about a lot on this show because it does dominate the history of Africa. And what happened was a bunch of white guys met up in a room in Berlin and they got out a map and they drew lines on the map of which bits of Africa they wanted. This was at the behest of King Leopold, of Belgium, who declared that yes, the Africa was the next continent ripe for the taking. Why 1884? Why didn't this happen earlier even? One word for you: malaria. Around the 1880s, they discovered that there was quinine in gin and tonic, and basically that quinine seemed to help ward off malaria. At that time, people didn't really know what malaria was. They didn't know it was spread by mosquitoes, for instance. Its name, malaria, means bad air. They thought it was just bad air or miasma. And they found this drink, gin and tonic, that seemed to give them a little bit of protection against malaria. And they thought, right, we're going to go into Africa with our gin and tonics and we'll take over and we'll steal everything. No, not steal everything. We'll teach civilization to these civilizations that have been civilizationing for thousands of years. That'll learn them. It's not that we just want to go and steal everything. They came and stole everything. That's what we did. That's what Europeans did. We fucking stole everything. Anyway, I've got loads of comments now. This is good. Coming in thick and fast. No Tuareg tribes, no Boko Haram. Don't you love extremists? Yeah. Panda Boy, 1 Oasis, 2 Oases. Mad Monk is saying, evening, Jeremy. Mad Monk is saying, during the pre-industrial era, most of Africa was tropical, and that included the area around Chad. Duke Vengeance says, a nice, relaxing, educational stream. Indeed. Megan Leak said, didn't know what to do with sand. Build lots of sandcastles, of course. Pineapple Boy says, jungly bit down south needs a trim and has put a razor on. Oh my. Moving on. Oh no, Mad Monk. Oh no, Duke, how you doing? I've tested positive for Boris, the blonde mutant variant. Any tips, bud? Oh god. Sorry to hear that, Mad Monk. I had what's it called? COVID last year. It was pretty unpleasant. But I've got to say, I had a cold over Christmas and New Year, which completely knocked me out for 2 weeks. And I didn't have COVID. Well, I might have done, but all of the tests came up negative. I did 7 tests, and they all came up negative. So Yeah. Hope you're all right. Plenty of sleep and fluids. Yeah. No symptoms. Have to isolate till Wednesday. Well, if you've got no symptoms, that's pretty good. I had lots of symptoms, but just no COVID, bizarrely. But there's something about having a cold sort of protects you against having COVID or something that I saw in one of the stupid newspapers. Anyway, so France was given what's now Chad. It wasn't Chad at the time. It was French, Western, Central Africa. And by 1913, it was fully colonized. Except the French didn't know what to do with it and left most of the territory entirely undeveloped. They drew the borders, though, with the Muslims in the north and the Christians and animists in the south. They could have drawn the borders anywhere. They had the vast swathe of Africa, right? And it went from from Senegal, that was French, through Mali, which was French, through Burkina Faso, which was French, through Niger, which was French, through Chad, which was French, through Central African Republic, which was French, and through the Republic of Congo, or French Congo, which was French, and Cameroon was mostly French as well after the war. So basically, this whole area is like boomerang area. And they could have drawn the borders anywhere. And they drew them on purpose to fuck up Africa. That's what we did. We did that. And it's still causing problems to this day. To this day. As I will get into very, very soon. I'm talking about the history of the place now. In 1960, the March for Independence was insurmountable for many of the countries in Africa. But to tell the truth, somewhere that France had very little interest in, Chad, they didn't care. They just didn't care about the place. They didn't put much of a fight up to try and keep it. Whereas Algeria, oh my God, so many people, thousands of people died in the fight for independence for Algeria because the French didn't want to give it up. France was like, no, we're keeping this. It's valuable. We like this one. The rest of it is, oh, you want to leave? Okay, bye. Central African Republic and Chad both got independence in the same year. The first president was a southerner called Francois Tombalbaye, and he arrested opposition leaders, he banned political parties, and he undertook a violent repression of the north, which led to a guerrilla war that's still raging to this day. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a war that's been raging for over 50 years now. On and off. Still there. Damn. The next 25 years, politics was dominated by armed struggles, shifting alliances, coups, and private armies, often exacerbated by Libya and France, neighbours Libya and France, who couldn't help but interfere. No, they couldn't. Also, there was a Sahel Drought. Sahel is the bit between the Sahara Desert proper and the more sort of temperate areas. Not temperate, that's the wrong word for it. More jungly areas. I'd say use the word jungle, Graham. The more green and leafy and tree-lined areas. The area, the hinterland between the two is called the Sahel. There was a profound drought there in the 70s and 80s, which led to the end of centuries-old life patterns of existence, cultivation, and it led to large-scale emigration, I guess, they're leaving, into the bigger cities, into urban centres. In 1975, 15 years into his rule, Tombalbaye was assassinated. He was succeeded by another southerner called General Malo. And after he had died, Tombalbaye's residence was raided, and they found over $1 million in cash. By the way, at the time, Chad was, I think, the poorest country in the world. $1 million in cash. And also plans like Bokassa in the Central African Republic in the 70s to proclaim, this is Tombalbaye, to proclaim himself emperor. Yes, just like Bokassa in Central African Republic. Wow. Anyway, so then along came the Gunt. Yes, the Gunt, the Government of National Unity. the G-U-N-T, because it was in French and the acronym was GUNT. That came in for 4 years with the Northern Rebel commander, Hassan Habrai, or Habre. Now, listen, this guy, Hassan Habre, we'll be talking about him quite a bit. Bit of a monster. Might have to say trigger warning, because there's going to be some crimes that he committed that I'll mention. So just so you know, there might be a few unsavory things coming up as I talk about the history of Chad. Anyway, so this power sharing agreement, the Government of National Unity, or GUNT, between Habre and the guy who replaced Tom Albay, a guy called General Malo. So this is a guy from the south, guy from the north, trying to work together to make Chad a country that's actually doing all right. That didn't go down so well, and it descended into bedlam. Basically, north versus south, Christian versus Muslim, animist versus Muslim, animist versus Christian. Who just seriously, it just all kicked off, and thousands of civilians were massacred. Malawum eventually fled the country, and Gukukni Weeddei. I'm going to say his name right, because it begins with an O, so it's a bit confusing, but it's OU, so it's French, it begins with a W in English. So Weeddei took over. He was the son of a tribal chieftain from northwest Chad, and he was the arch enemy of Hassan Habre, who I've just mentioned, who was another commander from the north, but they hated each other. In 1980, Libyan forces supporting Weeddei briefly occupied N'Djamena, the capital, and the French drove them northwards, leaving Habre as the nominal leader. And this led to a stalemate. It cut the country in half, and with Libya interfering in the north and France interfering in the south, but they didn't want an all-out war, so they just left the country split in two, and the north sort of took care of itself, and the south sort of took care of itself until 1987, when both foreign powers, both Libya and France, agreed to withdraw. However, this is under a peace agreement, a power sharing agreement. You know, they were going to have peace. They're going to have peace. However, Libyan renegades attacked Habre's army, but the Chadians, armed with just swords and machine guns, which is an interesting combination, but they managed to fight back the better trained, the better equipped, and the more numerous Libyan army back to Libya, which is nice. But then in 1990, Idris Deby, a northern Muslim warlord, he was in exile in Sudan at the time, swept back into Chad with 2,000 private soldiers. And Habre fled to Senegal, and there he was basically pursued by international justice for his crimes that he had committed up to that point. Okay, trigger warning, just coming up. He was known as the Chadian Pinochet, or the African Pinochet, actually, the African Pinochet. This guy was a monster, and in his reign of terror from sort of the 70s to 1990, he was guilty of many human rights abuses. In May 2016, Habre was finally found guilty. So like 26 years later, Jesus Christ, 26 years after being deposed, he was finally found guilty by an international tribunal in Senegal. And he was found guilty of human rights abuses, including rape, sexual slavery, and ordering the killing of 40,000 people. He was sentenced to life in jail. And he carked it last August 2020. He died of COVID. Thanks, COVID. Never thought I'd say that. Monster. Meanwhile, Deby became president and he removed the 2-term limit soon after. Well, no, 10 years later, he removed the 2-term limit on presidents. And I'd like to say he was the president to this day, but I can't because he's not, because last April he got shot dead. He was killed while visiting troops in the front line who were fighting with militants up in the north of the country after winning his 6th term as president. So he would have been in for another 5 years on top of the 30 years he'd already been president. But no, he died. He was shot dead. And apparently I think his nephew took over. Anyway, Pineapple Boy says, when Hassan Habre was accused of torture, did he say he thought it was a party? Probably. No one has been able to get these people to sit around the table. You think the French should do something about it since they started it? I don't think the French care that much. Just by the general attitude, they'll send people in now and again if it's getting, the international communities sort of saying, hey, what you doing? But generally speaking, no. I mean, the best thing that I think that Chad could do is split in two. Just split in two. But then there's oil, which I'm going to come to in a moment. So that's going to complicate matters, obviously. Anyway, so we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here. But Deby was president for 30 years. And then, he died last year. Good job of keeping up to date with these shows. Because if I'd done this show last year, I would say, oh my God, he's still the president of Chad. But he's no longer the president of Chad because he's brown bread. Anyway, so in the 1990s, we had that war. But Chad had that war with Libya over the northern border that I told you about when we were looking at the map. In 2004, Chad became an oil exporter. They found oil. The oil boom, the subsequent oil boom, has been both a blessing and a curse, as it always is. The World Bank helped put down a 1,000-kilometer pipeline to the sea via Cameroon. Now, Cameroon is very important to the lifeblood of Chad because it's one of its few neighbours that it actually gets on with. And also, it's the only way it can get to the sea, realistically, because it's a landlocked country. What else are you going to do? And so, there's a pipeline there, and any supplies that need to get in and out of Central African Republic generally come through Cameroon. Just like Central African Republic. Now, I've travelled all over Cameroon. I've been through the jungles in the south, across the border, through the mangrove forests from Calabar in Nigeria. I've been to Douala. I've been to the capital Yaoundé. I've been right up to the north of the country. I've crossed over the border into Chad. I spent a day, if that, mooching around the border town in Chad. Came back. Then I went down to Central African Republic and literally stepped over the border to Central African Republic. I saw very little of it. But yeah, the roads in Cameroon were some of the worst in West Africa, and that's really saying something. So if another country is relying on, if a country like Chad is relying on other countries' roads in order to get things in and out, and those roads are terrible, which they are, it makes the whole thing very, very difficult. They might have improved in the last 10 years. I don't know. But when I was there, bloody hell, wow, wasn't great. Anyway, Chad was supposed to give, because of this oil pipeline that was put in, funding from the World Bank, the deal was that they had to give 80% of the oil revenue to the population, to people, to reduce poverty. And even before Deby broke his promise in 2016, there was virtually no change for the average Joe. It was the world's poorest country. It's currently about the 14th poorest. It used to be the world's most corrupt country. It's now about the equal 16th country of corruption. There's been some improvements in health and in education and infrastructure, but not as much as there should have been, because of corruption. And also because in 2005 and 2010, we had the Chadian Civil War, And I'm not really aware of a prolonged period of peace in Chad. I mean, it's generally this is an ongoing situation. But this particular war started in December 2005 when the government of Chad declared a state of war with neighbouring Sudan. Over 200,000 refugees from Darfur in Sudan currently claim asylum or living as refugees in eastern Chad. And there was an attack on N'Djamena, the capital, in 2006, which led to the Battle of N'Djamena. N'Djamena, I should say. I find it a really hard word to say that one. I should have practiced it over and over again before I did the show. Anyway, in 2008, an opposition alliance, including the nephew of Davy, attacked N'Djamena. And it even got as far as surrounding the presidential palace, and hundreds were killed, mostly civilians, but the rebels were beaten back. After Davy carked it last April, it was announced that a military council led by Davy's son, not his nephew, son, Mahamat Idris Deby, Davy. I keep saying Deby because I just want to speak English. It's a French word, Davy. A military council led by Davy's son, Mahamat Idris Deby, would govern for the next 18 months, which brings us up to the modern day. That's what's happening in Chad. That's what's going down in Chad. Also, did you know this channel isn't open to Super Chads? Oh, I didn't think of that, Pineapple Boy. That was another reason why I didn't set up a new channel. Yeah, because we were talking about this with Ginger Island, and it was like you wouldn't be able to do Super Chats because if you started a new channel. But don't worry. Honestly, I got some amazing Super Chats on Wednesday when I was doing my Prime Minister's Questions thing. So I will get it open to Super Chats when I'm allowed to do that. But I've still got to set a few things up, Pineapple Boy. But we have to get going. We have to get going on the channel. We have to start producing content for you to watch. If it splits in two, you have to go back there. Yes, Pineapple Boy, I will. I'll do that. Happy to do that. Make sure you're stocked up painkillers. Yes, indeed. Oh, oil, says Reagan Elise. Well, yeah, what can I say? It's one of those things, isn't it, with oil? It's kind of like, it is, I want to say it's a blessing and a curse, but it's just usually a curse. Like, it doesn't help people. It just screws up the local environment and screws up the global environment. Some people make lots of money, but it never filters down. It's trickle-down bullshit. It just doesn't. And you go to countries like Venezuela or Angola, and it's the poverty is like mesmerizing. It's like, how can there be so much poverty here when you have so much oil? How is that working? Where's all the money going from the oil? Like, how is that possible? You know, I think Venezuela's got one of their biggest oil reserves in the world, and its people are starving. Bad governance, yeah, but at the same time, no, if you're getting a backhander, if you're selling $1 billion of oil at 1 billion barrels of oil a year, and you're getting $1 for each barrel in your back pocket, I mean, Jesus, it's not really an incentive to do better, is it? And one of the stupid things that we do as a world is we have this stupid rule, and we obviously have it in the UK as with current events. I mean, if you're watching this back in the future, you might not know what I'm talking about, but at the moment, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom has arguably broken the law, a law that he created, and yet the police won't investigate. The police are refusing to investigate. Why? Because he is the leader of the country, and this happens all over the world. And what happens is you have a leader who is a monster. You have a leader who is a war criminal, a wanted war criminal. And yet, the UN, Interpol, the FBI, the CIA, the Europol, anyone, no one, NATO, no one can touch this person until they're not the leader anymore. Once they're not the leader anymore, like Slobodan Milosevic, you can arrest them and put them in jail. Once they're not the leader anymore, like Colonel Gaddafi, you can beat them to death at the side of the street. Once they're not the leader anymore, like Saddam Hussein, you can hang them. But until they step down as leader, you can't do that. And these dinosaurs who stay in power till the day they die, like Davy and like bloody, what's his name, Mugabe tried to down in Zimbabwe, there's no incentive for them to stand down, because they know if they do stand down, they will face charges of crimes against humanity. But while they are the leader, while they are the president or the prime minister of the country, they are above the law. And the amount of suffering and hardship and crime and murder and just horrible things that have come as a result, as a direct result of this stupid bloody law, it's just mind-blowing. It's just like, how do we have a system that allows people to commit crimes, like huge, epic crimes? But no, it's okay because they're the leader. We can't touch them. They're the leader. I think they're the people who should be taken down for like anything. I think they should be like removed from office if they dare look at someone funny. Never mind order the massacre of civilians. And yet this is the system that we have set up in this world. And it's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. I would like to see some kind of UN charter for good governance that all countries sign up to. And in that they agree not to be a tyrant, not to stay in power for more than 10 years. I mean, you know, Davy did it. Bloody Putin did it. Every tyrant ever did it. If there's a 2-term limit on your office, you change the constitution and stay in power forever and ever and ever and ever. And the worst thing that we do, even worse than that, is that the World Bank and the IMF give money to tyrants. And they damn well know they're tyrants, and yet they give them money anyway. This happened throughout the 70s and 80s. Development money. They knew it was being spent on fucking torture devices, on buying AK-47s, on buying bombs, on buying aeroplanes that they could put people in the aeroplane and then fly over the ocean and push them out the fucking aeroplane. And yet they gave these monsters, these psychopaths, they gave them money. There you go. Here's some more money. Do you need some more money? A loan at a ridiculous amount of interest. And then finally, when this monster is ousted at the cost of blood, of the thousands of people, rebels, you know, the resistance, whatever they are, fighting against these monsters, they finally get them out of office and they go, great, they're out of office, let's start a democracy. And the World Bank goes, oi, you still owe us $50 billion. And they're like, what? You didn't lend that to us. You lent that to a monster who was in charge before us. Why did you give him the money? Are you mad? It would be like you buying a house and being saddled with the debts of the person who owned the house before you. What's it got to do with you? You didn't do that deal. You didn't borrow the money. And yet, African countries throughout the 80s and 90s were absolutely squashed down by this weight of this huge debt that these Western banks have put on them. They shouldn't have lent the money in the first place. The people who lent them the money should be in bloody jail, considering what that money was used for. Yeah, that's just me. Anyway, I don't want Boris in jail. I want something to happen to him which is far worse, as Duke Vengeance. It's fair enough. Jeremy Lance is there. Good morning, Graham Hughes. Hello, Jeremy, over in Australia. Got a little kangaroos going across the screen. That's fantastic. Like the 5th richest country, and the government doesn't want to feed hungry children. Yep, that's very true indeed. Jacob Fleece Mug took the next step today, saying the rules were too strict. Better blame the rules than the rule breaker. Yes, which he did with in another way with the Grenfell Tower, where he said that they should have ignored what they were told to do. You know, any sensible person would have just got out the tower. That they were told to stay in place until the firefighters or the fire brigade came and got them out. That was what they were told to do, because the building regulations were set up for a building that didn't have combustible material slapped to the side of it. Anyway, so Traveling around Chad, bit of a pain in the arse. Very few roads are paved. It gets hot as hell in summer, and it is surprisingly expensive, like Angola and like Senegal and other countries I went to in Africa. And I'm like, how come this place is so expensive? I have no idea. People are living on $1 a day, and yet it costs $80 for a can of Coke. Well, it's not that crazy, but the prices are comparable with a price that you would pay for stuff in Europe. Considering how much people earn on average, it makes it very difficult for people to buy most of the things that people would want to just to have a bit of comfort in their life. And I think this is an attitude that I guess people in Europe and America, I guess this is a thing that white people have. They feel like if you're born in the wrong place, if you're born at the wrong coordinate of latitude and longitude, you don't deserve comfort. You deserve nice things. How dare you be born in that place? I tell you what, you should work really hard, harder than we ever work, and get fuck all for it. That'll learn you, being born in the wrong place. It's crazy. It's a crazy situation. I think it's untenable. I don't think it's going to last. I really hope that we see some kind of revolution, not just in the UK, not just in Chad, but just all around the world in thought, in the way that we perceive ourselves and the planet, and the way that we conduct ourselves and to our fellow humans. Because at the moment we are going to a very, very dark place, and I can spend the next 3 years going on about all these different countries around the world and the fuck-ups they've made in the past and the fuck-ups that were thrust upon them. And if we don't learn from this stuff, then we are absolutely condemned to make the same mistakes as we are doing at the moment. It's said there's a wealth of warmth and culture beyond the rough exterior of Chad. And I would go along with that. I don't have much of an experience of Chad myself. I don't have much footage to show you. I wasn't filming much when I was there because I had a Lonely Planet camera operator with me. So he was getting all the footage and I was just prattling around. But the Chadians that we met were really nice. Just dead lovely. I mean, the first person that you meet when you cross a border is the border guards. And just two cheerful young lads who just like, yeah, what are you doing? Well, we're trying to go to every country in the world. Oh, brilliant. Okay, do you want a stamp? They were great. Really nice. Anyway, so would I go there? Yeah, I'd go back. But it is a dangerous place still. I would go to the capital and the unpronounceable capital and probably not venture much further than that, which is a shame. Because, like with most places in Africa, we see it as this particular country as the dark, what do they call it? The dead heart of Africa. It could be the warm heart of Africa. It could be the golden heart of Africa. But it's not just the deserts and the heat they're talking about there. They're talking about the fact that political instability, which has happened because of the meddling of other countries. And you're going to hear the same story again and again as we travel around the world, going to these different places in alphabetical order. Next up, next week on this same Bat channel is going to be Chile, not China, Chile in South America, one of the longest countries in the world. You are never more than 4 Chile's lengths away from Chile, anywhere in the world. Fun fact. Anyway, so Chile's up next. Wonderful place, capital Santiago, and it's just a big coast. It's a big coast, and then you've got the mountains, the Andes Mountains behind it. It's a fabulous and very interesting country, and a very, very long country. But I'll try not to make it a very long episode. I've prattled on here now for an hour, so I'm going to head off to the Discord server. Now, does anyone have the link to the Discord server? If you don't, I'm going to do it quickly now, and I will entertain you while I do that with a little tune. I can't sing for shit. I'm just going to type in Discord. Right. I've tried to tidy up the Discord server a little bit because it was all over the shop like a pork chop, and there were loads of like channels that no one was using, like Welsh elections and stuff like that. So I've tried to clean it up a bit. I don't know if it's going to work out very well. But so I'm going to go to Graham Hughes Travels, and then there's a... Oh dear. I'm probably broadcasting now on two different things. Let's invite some people. And this link will last for 6 hours. So if you're watching us on catch up, this link probably won't work. I'm going to put that there, and we can meet over there. I'm going to have a little quiz. If you want to join us for the quiz over on Discord, you are very, very welcome to do so. Okay, so as some of you know, I appeared on the James O'Brien show today on... well, first of all, I put a tweet up saying, isn't it funny that after all the shenanigans that are going on in Parliament with Boris Johnson on the ropes, and James O'Brien has somehow found himself talking about cycle lanes, because he was talking to Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, today, and but they were talking about cycle lanes. I can hear it in his voice, just like, why am I talking about this? But one of the questions that came up in Mystery Hour today was, how long would it take to get around the world on scheduled transport without flying? And it was like, suddenly my phone just went crazy. And loads of messages saying, Graham, tune into Mystery Hour. There's a question for you. So I called up the assistant, the producer on the show, and I've been on the James O'Brien show a lot of times before, so they know that I'm Graham from Liverpool. But I said you could probably get around the world if you went via Russia and America. You could probably do it in about 31 days if everything went perfectly on scheduled transport. And she said, what's your qualification? I said, well, I'm the first and so far only person to visit every country in the world without flying. And she's like, what's your surname? Can I look this up? And I'm like, yeah, it's Hughes, Hughes. She goes, I could hear her typing on Google, and she goes, oh my God, is your radio off? And I went, yeah, radio off. She said, I'm going to put you through. And literally that moment, she put me through to James, and I was still like, and I hadn't quite collected what I was going to say, because normally they leave you on hold for about 10 minutes, so you can get what you're going to say in your head. Anyway, so I told him what my theory was about how to go to all these places how to get around the world from London to London in 31 days without flying, and and what route you would take. And then he said, well, your qualifications? And I said, well, first person to visit every country in the world without flying. And, I didn't probably deserve a Ray Liotta, but I just would have liked one anyway. But he just gave me a round of applause instead, because my record was for going to every country in the world, and it wasn't for going round the world. So I got done on a technicality. So if someone wants to ring up Mystery Hour and say, I'd like to know how long it takes to get to every country in the world without flying, please do, and I might get a Ray Liotta. Might happen. Anyway, so I'm going to wrap it up now. If you head down to the Discord server there, I'll meet you in a couple of minutes' time, and we will do a bit of a quiz. We've got a little bit of a quiz, just a little bit of a quiz. And thanks for watching. Thanks to all my patrons out there. If you want to help me on Patreon, the link is in the description below if you're watching on YouTube. This is my new travel channel. There's going to be lots more videos going up on here, like pre-recorded stuff from years back. And look out for them. They're quite fun. And and I will be back with you on Sunday for Graham Hughes' Film Club. Trying to find me a picture. And this week we are going to be talking about Audrey Hepburn, the actor Audrey Hepburn, and her films and her life. And we're going to be watching the film Charade, or Charade. Still don't know how you say that. But for various reasons, it fell out of copyright, so we can play it on the Discord server. So I'll see you on the Graham Hughes Films channel. So look out for that. And yes, I'll be putting links up on Facebook and Twitter. Okay. It turns out bad things do happen to terrible people, says Duke Vengeance. Occasionally, yeah. Like dying of COVID in jail. Oh, what a shame. Did you get Liotta? No, I didn't, Jeremy. Sorry. Better luck next time. Anyway, right. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back on Sunday with Graham Hughes. What's it called? Film Club. First rule of Film Club is you don't talk about Film Club. And I will, for all the politics fans out there, I'll be back on Monday for Hughes at 10. We'll be sorting out the Discord server, because what I'd like to do, while I'm not doing a show every single day, I would like to have an after hours set up every day at 11 o'clock on the Discord server, so people can go over there and know that there'll be someone there at about 11 o'clock. But we're heading over to the quiz now. So if you go over to the Discord server, look out for HOTW, Hughes of the World quiz, and click on that. Okay, that's it. I'm off, finally. Oof, a lot of blather there. Never mind. So that was all you need to know about Chad. I hope. Enough. Some of it. And next week, we're going to Chile. Until then, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye. That's what I normally say on politics shows. But on this show, I normally say, until next time, fair winds and following seas, traveller.